Hi everyone, I'm Ken from CryptoTradingKS and the inventor of the CTKS method and BORSOG trading. If you're new, a very warm welcome. And welcome back, KS family. From my 30 plus years in financial markets, I explain the smart money mindset to assist you to be more of a financial blessing to yourself and those you love, gaining real wealth and positive excellence in the process. If you would like daily updates on stock price movements and crypto price movements, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, please subscribe to YouTube. I've left helpful links in the description of this video, such as the tax software I use and links to the CryptoTradingKS Masterclass. Please seek out a CTKS ambassador to get 80% off. And you can also apply for the CTKS Partial Masterclass Scholarship. That link is in the description of the video as well. Let's run the numbers. Bitcoin is currently up 0.49% to 19,519. Ethereum is up 0.43% to 1342. You can see in the major stock market there was a tremendous sell-off. Apple down nearly 3%, Google nearly 2%. As crypto technical analysts, we view the market very differently. The first thing we do is to mark up our charts with the new method that upgrades candlestick pattern analysis to the 21st century, which is called the CTKS method. Next, we look outside the charts, look beyond the charts, checking world events and collecting probabilities. Then we look back inside the crypto market, enhancing our pattern recognition and finding the market's focus. But before we buy or sell, we must master emotional control. We must dethrone the dictator of fear, because when fear governs our behaviors, we'll buy and sell at the wrong time. And we can see that there's a lot of fear entering the markets. Eurozone inflation hits 10% as power supplies scramble for reserves. Dutch inflation leaps to 17%, boosted by higher energy prices. Russian President Vladimir Putin has annexed 4 regions in Ukraine. Annexation in international law is the forcible acquisition of state territory by another state, usually following military occupation of that territory. It's generally held to be an illegal act. One thing that Russia's annexation of the Ukrainian land does, it effectively locks off all of this area from sea transportation, and it opens all of that up to Russia. Annexation is a little bit like you go into the next door neighbor's yard and you camp out there and you say, "This is now my land." It's not surprising that Ukraine has applied for NATO membership. Blinken, the US Secretary of State, backs NATO's traditional process for adding members after Ukraine's latest bid. The US is not supporting a fast-track accession to NATO. You might remember a couple of episodes ago, Turkey was blocking Sweden's application for NATO membership. Sweden resumes arms exports to Turkey after NATO membership bid. Not surprisingly, we've seen global markets continue their route, their push downwards. The Nasdaq Composite Index has lost its support and has resumed down. On technical factors alone, we were expecting a bit of a bounce, but that's not what we saw, because there's so much geopolitical instability currently in the global markets. We did have a slight reprieve in the ACWI, the All Country World Index, but that was pretty much shortly lived. And we can see that there's so many stocks below their 50-day moving average in the S&P 500. These times in the past have been very good buying opportunities because they've been very close to the dip. But there is one exception. When we go back to the GFC, the dip kept on dipping. We can see that for the past couple of days, basically the DXY has been decreasing. That's been a good thing for the markets, but the markets haven't responded well. And we can see we're getting a slight weakening of trend here. The resistance has been passed across, so the DXY is likely to actually increase over time. In the next FOMC meeting, there's a 54.5% probability of a 75 basis point increase in the federal funds rate. We can see inflation rates coming down, but the problem is the stock market is coming down at the same time, which is just all pointing to demand destruction. Bitcoin is literally holding on by its fingernails. And we can see that the federal funds rate prediction in April 2023 has started to resume back up. This actually coincides with the dollar crossing over resistance and the markets crossing under support. And we can see all the US government yields starting to increase. Looking at the past trading session, we can see overall the VIX is on its way up. This is the fear gauge of the stock market. The Nasdaq 100, which is a prime mover of economic confidence, is still under resistance and multiple levels of resistance. We saw a bit of a bounce in bond prices and a bit of a collapse or a bit of a retracement in bond yields, but that's been reversed. We saw a bit of a bounce in gold, but that's been reversed, and the dollar is starting to come up. And when we look at oil, oil is still under resistance, and we've got some stabilization in junk bonds. This could mean that we could get a positive wave up. In other news, just out, China's service sector slows in latest economic warning. US jobless claim hits lowest level in 5 months. This is actually really bad for the markets. One thing that the Fed has been always talking about, and central banks as well, when you have high employment but high inflation, you've got a lot of wage pressure inflation. And that means that they're going to have to be more and more restrictive with their tightening policies. Central banks all around the world require demand destruction because they don't want to fix the problem. It's a supply problem. All they can do is use an archaic methodology to destroy demand. I think governments, it's time to open the playbook again and start to become inventive. And companies do exactly the same thing. When economic conditions get hard, what do? They fire people. Mark Zuckerberg freezes hiring at Facebook, parent Meta. And this is just a common, everyday occurrence. But again, why do we have to have these knee-jerk reactions to economic cycles? We haven't looked at this in a while, but it's probably a really good idea to look at the C19 cases. We can see that new cases yesterday globally were nearly 500,000. And total cases, 622.7 million and 6.548 million deaths. We can see a lot of countries are dropping their C19 screening processes, and yesterday Australia had 5,558 cases. Now, why am I speaking about Australia? Because the federal government has just brought in the scrapping of mandatory C19 isolation. Chief Health Officers Group bypassed in a big C19 rule change. Brett Sutton, Victoria's Chief Health Officer, he took to Twitter to warn people about the ongoing dangers posed by the disease. And a meeting of the nation's chief health officers was cancelled on Thursday, with the Australian Health Protection Principal Committee, AHPPC, not directly consulted on the isolation change. What's effectively happened here is the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has basically said, okay, if you've got COVID, just go to work. If you've got COVID, just hang out in a bar and give it to everyone. That's not a problem. This change is expected on October the 14th. So many people around the world have lost their lives to C19, and you can see just yesterday, 1,250 people lost their lives. If you've lost anyone to C19, our heart and thoughts and love go out to you. But it's still very undecided, and there's a lot of resistance on junk bonds. The Masterclass students, you can see it with the EC method. And Masterclass students, you'll also receive my live chart and a deep explanation of these charts in TM6. We can see that Bitcoin is just holding above the Armageddon line. Why is this line important? Because the last time we lost support and didn't have much support below, we saw a fairly steep sell-off. We have to be careful around times of structural uncertainty when price just literally can't make up its mind. Is it going above the Armageddon line or below it? When people are fresh into financial markets, they want to be fully invested 100% of the time and gain any particular bump in price to the upward direction. Professionals don't do this because they know there's two ways to make money. One is by profit and one is avoiding loss. Rule 154, risk off at structural uncertainty. The markets are very, very uncertain at the particular point of time that we find ourselves in. And that's why we must get synchronized in with the market. We do our BORSOG codes each and every day because the market rewards your active learning and also your daily risk management. This particular code that you'll see a lot of times in the comments. It's all about your personal perspective. The D, the F, and the U. This first component of BORSOG code is all about, do you expect the market to go down, to go flat, or to go up? The middle section of the BORSOG code is what percentage do you think price will move against you, just go neutral, or go for you? And that always adds up to 100%. And the last part of the code, it's like the Da Vinci Code, is how synchronized in with the market do you feel? Do you feel you've got the Midas touch, that every investment and trade that you make is producing gold or Bitcoin? Or do you think that it's the opposite? Because the markets are just so uncertain. Remember, the market never knows you and you cannot control the market. It's also important to understand that there's many conflicting signals in financial markets. You'll find this all the time. Some things, for example, synchronize and then they desynchronize. It happens all the time. For example, sometimes max pain works and sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it gets suppressed. There's a lot going on in the world. And when people just look at the chart in front of them, but don't look at the geopolitical situation in the world, and we've got a rather tough one at the moment, they'll misread the charts because they're not factoring in global risk. And when we look at KS zone analysis, the 4 stages that all investors and traders progress through to become consistently profitable and attain real wealth and positive excellence. In zone 1 and zone 2, people want certainty. They want an absolute, is it going up or is it going down? And where is it going to? And I must buy the bottom and I must buy the top. And I must be all in at all times. In zones 3 and 4, zones 3 and 4 are the professional zones. Zone 1 and zone 2 are the retail zones. In zone 3 and zone 4, everything is about probability. It's all about patience. It's all about rules. It's all about really not being all in at all times. One of the most important things you can do is to synchronize in with the market. When you're synchronized, you can scale because you've got a really good feeling on the market and how it's moving. If you find you lose that synchronization, you desynchronize with the market, just descale until you can synchronize again. And you can synchronize by starting small, even with coffee money. As a global family, we're all about rule 359, be on the right side of the percentage. You can be on the wrong side of the trade, but on the right side of the percentage and still make a lot of money. Let's just go back a little bit in time and look at the previous Armageddon line. You saw this particular line, not much support below. And what was happening? Basically, it was coming up to a retest and then it fell through. And then when it fell through, it really fell through. You've got to figure out if you want to be part of price action when it's going down or when it's going up. And I know that sounds pretty simplistic, but if you're unsure, it's good to just hang out of the market for a while. But that doesn't mean you're not keeping your eye on the market, because at any time you need to get back in. That's why we have rule 252, prepared and not scared. You're just prepared. You're not scared at all. You're just waiting for the right opportunity. And what do we see with the longs and the shorts? We can see there was a bit of a short spike. Now there's a long spike, a long liquidation spike. And we can look at the relative movements. We can see, for example, that the shorts are coming out of the market at the moment. They're just probably covering their positions, ready to go in renewed again. And the longs are buying the dip. But we can see much more accurately when we look at liquidations. There's been $92.42 million in liquidations across 29,238 positions. And in the past 24 hours, of those total liquidations, about 53% were short. How's that changed in the last 12 hours? Around, say, 52% long. What about the past 4 hours? 77% long. And the past hour, about 92% long. What we're actually seeing is the longs are increasingly getting liquidated. And you can see that quite clearly here. As the price is coming down, that's a result of cascading long liquidations. And when we look at the daily basis, we can see the shorts and longs are fairly evenly matched today and yesterday, with a little bit more on the short side today and a little bit more on the long side yesterday. But the concept is we do have upward price progression here at the moment, and we've got a covering of resistance. One thing that we know is Rule 45, no alt can escape Bitcoin's gravity. Global crypto market cap decreased 0.37% over the past 24 hours to $940.66 billion. The greatest gainers over the past 24 hours, Lunacy up 8.3%, Quant up 7.3%, Leo about 5.6%, Helium nearly 5.5%, Bitcoin Cash 5.25%, and TON 4.9% up. The greatest losers in the past 24 hours, Celsius down nearly 5.5%, Link a little over 4% down, PancakeSwap 4% down, Aave about 3.2% down, Flow around the same, and Ravencoin 2.72% down. Bitcoin's gravity is really important to understand. I've just popped down to a 5-minute chart to show you how the fluctuations in Bitcoin's price action actually reflect across your beloved alts. Some are stronger, some are weaker, but we need to keep our eyes on the differences between them. You can see as Bitcoin is coming down, this blue line, Ethereum is coming down. What's happening to Binance Coin? It's coming down as well. What's happening to ADA? It's coming down more. What's happening to XRP? It's resisting. It's very strong at the moment. And there's good reason for that. There's been a lot of positive developments in the SEC case. Go Ripple. And what about Solana? It's coming down in alignment with Bitcoin's gravity. What about Doge? Coming down in alignment. What about DOT? Poor old DOT is much weaker than Bitcoin's gravity. It's overextending the negative price behavior. But Matic is much stronger, almost like XRP. It's resisting that downward pressure and over-exaggerating the upward side momentum. And we have some quite interesting news in the crypto space. World's largest digital asset manager, BlackRock, introduces a blockchain ETF in Europe. Binance global expansion continues with a move down under. Binance will launch in New Zealand following regulatory approval, and New Zealand will join other recent additions to the Binance family, including Italy and Spain. And billionaire Stanley Druckenmiller discusses cryptocurrency having a big role in a renaissance. People aren't going to trust central banks. Stanley's personal wealth is currently $6.4 billion, and he used to be the managing director at Soros Fund Management, where he had overall responsibilities of assets valued at $22 billion at its peak. Before I spoke about patience, Stanley said he revealed that he does not own any Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, adding, "It's tough for me to own anything like that with central banks tightening." But the very fact that cryptocurrencies are making headlines day after day after day means they're not going away. Fed Chair Jerome Powell updates work on digital dollar, says the US central bank digital currency will take at least a couple of years. Jerome Powell said, "Cash is not disappearing here in the United States. We still use quite a lot. He began, however, the central bank noted it is declining, not in absolute terms, but compared with non-cash payments, it is declining. Over 2 years ago, this incredible infographic came out from the visual capitalist. All of the world's money and markets in one visualization. I suggest you check it out. 2 years ago, before the massive printing of the central banks, only 7% of the money supply was physical. 93% was non-physical. I'd love to see the update to this chart. This is exactly why the central banks must introduce digital currency. They've simply run out of paper notes. And that's why you see more and more news headlines about different countries getting into digital currencies. China trials cross-border settlement involving Senbank digital currencies. And China, Hong Kong, Thailand and the UAE trial cross-border transactions with digital currencies. Digital currencies are not going away. They're here to stay. And government, central bank digital currencies are just going to replace stablecoins. That's all there is to it. In other news, Ripple scores decisive win in SEC lawsuit. Judge Torres has ordered the SEC to hand over documents from a 2018 speech made by the then SEC director of SEC's Corporate Finance Division, William Hinman. In crypto, it's really common for people to get tribalistic. That means that they love their beloved cryptos and kind of hate every other crypto. We see it all the time. Bitcoin maximalists are the best at that. Bitcoin is the king and everything else, well, it just doesn't exist. But we've got a very balanced approach inside our global family. One thing that this article mentions, this ruling comes after a lengthy battle that could decide the fate of many cryptocurrencies. And the Ripple judgment will decide the fate of many, many cryptocurrencies, perhaps tens of thousands of them. Whatever your perspectives on XRP may be, you really, really want XRP to win against the SEC, or more the fact, Ripple to win against the SEC. The Hinman speech is actually really important, and now the SEC is required to produce the documents from that Hinman speech. And in that speech, Hinman asserted that Ethereum network, cryptocurrency and trades do not constitute securities-related activities. Oh no, Gary. The production of the Hinman documents, the judge hands Ripple and its two executives a crucial win that potentially takes them one step closer to overturning the lawsuit that had lasted almost 2 years. But it's much, much more than that. It could effectively relieve a lot of the pressure on the crypto industry brought about by Gary Gensler's oversight, which can only be labeled as highly aggressive to the crypto industry. As a global family, we're into positive excellence because we want sustainable fulfillment, meaning, happiness, and success. When we live a life of courage and honor, persistence and commitment with kindness and authenticity, and integrity and decency, inner and outer peace just naturally follows. Success is always an outcome. It's always an output. It's never an input, and you have to work for it. I'd like to thank Ivan for his very kind comment in yesterday's video. Thank you. I'm in tears right now. It's really awesome how a mindset can open a broader perspective of how you can manage life. Prepared, not scared. Earn means keep. I win or learn and never blame. Those sentences are mottos of my life right now. That's just beautiful. Thank you so much, Ivan. And thank you to Tiana. Yes, fear is currently becoming so prevalent that we can feel it in the air. I hope the world will turn the trend of negativity, arrogance, and hate and replace it with kindness, empathy, and integrity, the way you teach in the masterclass. Very nice, Tiana. And aloha to divine art. Fear is so vast and primordial. We hold it in our bodies in many ways. Fight, flight, freeze, and accommodating are the 4 primordial responses we have to fear, or stored trauma. I think that's a really fascinating concept. Fear is stored trauma. Just brilliant, divine art. It is so critical that we have good teachers and a supportive community to help guide us through all of these obstacles. Happiness is learning to fearlessly ride the waves. Well done, divine art. And just to let people know, I've noticed that a lot of people have been reaching out and saying their comments are getting deleted. I think YouTube changed its algorithm to not allow very large comments, so that may have something to do with it, but I don't know what is going on. So Jade talked about fear can be life-consuming. It leads to anxiety and panic. And of course, fear is the basis of Zone 1 and Zone 2 behaviors. I've seen this scenario unfold in someone who was very important in my life, and it was heartbreaking to watch them struggle through it. And thankfully, with medication and counseling, they were able to stop having panic attacks, and the fear is mostly gone. Well done, Jade. And thank you for sharing, my friend. One thing that you might like to do is just to write your comment into some form of anything other than YouTube, like a notepad or something like that, and then just copy and paste it in. I'm finding that a lot of comments are getting deleted. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but a lot of people are talking about it. And thank you to everyone in our global family. I can't tell you how much I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you're going through a life pullback at the moment, please know that our love and healing thoughts are with you. You're not alone, and the sun will come out again, although it's a really hard thing to go through life pullbacks. Each and every day, 7 days a week, we go through the BORSOG identification process inside the market. We're always looking for opportunities, and the CTKS Creed helps us to prime our mind for those opportunities. The CTKS Creed is just a series of positive affirmations we tell ourselves each and every day. And the main goal is to eliminate the dictator of fear inside our mental processes and replace that with courage. And courage would be something fantastic to talk about in the comments. I know the universe wants me to succeed. Every day I show kindness, integrity, and gratitude. I know opportunities in life reset daily. I am worthy. I go slow to go fast. I start small and scale with BORSOG. Life pullbacks give me the strength for the next life rally. I am dedicated and committed. I win or learn and never blame. Those positive affirmations prime your mind for profitability in not just the crypto market, but also in life. It's all about having sustainable fulfillment, meaning, happiness, and success. And that's what positive excellence is all about. If you have friends or family who could benefit from positive excellence and what we do each and every day, 7 days a week, please introduce them to our community by sharing a video. We'd love to see them here. We have one of the best communities on YouTube. Please remember, crypto is volatile. Always prepare yourself for the best and worst case scenarios. Reality will likely be between them. Stay safe out there, my friends. Take care and see you next time. Bye for now.